Can you start by telling us why you're here, Mr. Evans?
Well, I'm here because my book, along with 4 others, was pulled from the shelves.
When books were banned, this South Dakota community fought back.
They see public education as a vehicle to indoctrinate children.
MSNBC Films presents To Be Destroyed, part of the Turning Point documentary series from executive producer Trevor Noah. Sunday, July 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern on MSNBC.
Tonight on the ReidOut,
we will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
That was one of Trump's top guys, Kash Patel, back in December. Now, Kevin Roberts, the man behind the fascist manifesto Project 2025, is doubling down on that threat, warning of violence if the rest of us don't go along with the MAGA Republicans' so-called Second American Revolution. Also tonight, after filling the Supreme Court with justices who took away reproductive freedom, Donald Trump is now offering despicable lies about where Democrats stand on abortion, with a dark future ahead for women if Trump wins. And we begin tonight with Hurricane Peril hurtling toward the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, so be safe out there. While politically, we're weathering a different kind of storm here at home. On the eve of America's Independence Day, when we commemorate the white male land and slave owners who declared themselves free of the yoke of the British king, the Leonard Leo VI on the Supreme Court have decreed that the American president is, in fact, a king. So by that logic, all hail King Biden, am I right? Because America's king right now, per the conservative Supreme Court majority, is Joe Biden. He is also the Democratic Party's candidate to be president/king again. And despite some Democrats jumping ship and saying he should drop out, and the frantic meetings and calls taking place inside the Democratic Party, today, Biden told his campaign staff the following, quote, "Let me say this as clearly as I possibly can, as simply and straightforward as I can. I am running. No one's pushing me out. I'm not leaving. I'm in this race to the end, and we're going to win. And I am telling you." Okay, look. The truth is, this is basically who Democrats are, okay? Democrats are the anxiety people. They're always freaking out and assuming they're going to lose. They are also a normal political party. And debating whether an elderly president is the right choice to beat American Hitler is unsurprising and honestly pretty politically healthy, if ill-timed, given the emergency our democracy is in. And who the Democrat nominee is important on one level, because it speaks to the strategy of how to keep King Donald off the Iron Throne. But real talk, it kind of doesn't matter. No, actually, it really doesn't matter. Because honestly, any Democrat, Biden, you name the popular Democratic governor or Senator, Vice President Harris, any of them, would be solid presidents and far preferable to the Republican alternative. Because all of them believe in the rule of law. Each of them would follow the traditional role of the presidency and not try to be American Putin. None of them would use SEAL Team 6 to assassinate their rivals or expand presidential powers to turn the Justice Department into a witch hunt squad. None of them would arrest the entire Trump family and charge them with treason and put them in public show trials. None of them would round up millions of migrants and send them to concentration camps or make them fight in Fight Club like the Romans did. None of them would turn this country into a Christian nationalist hellhole and ban books and criminalize teachers and drag shows. And I guarantee you 100%, not a single one of them would outlaw birth control and the abortion pill and IVF and force women and teenage girls into being forced birth chattel for the state. But you know who would do those awful things? That would be King Trump. Trump, through his weak, spineless party and the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 plan. And the Leo VI on the Supreme Court say that's exactly what should happen. The president must be bold and rule by fiat. F the law. That shouldn't even apply to him. And they have made clear that they would partner with King Trump as his loyal hands to rule us. So the fantasy football conversation in the mainstream media about the Democratic Party nominee, okay, go for it. Just remember, there is no one on the Democratic side, including the super old guy, who is a threat to American democracy. Pay as much attention to the candidate debate as you need to. It is a worthy debate. Just make sure that you're prepared to vote in November for whoever that person is, and every Democrat below them on the ticket, because the alternative is King Trump and Project 2025 as the new rule of law. And make no mistake, thanks to this abomination of a Supreme Court majority, the MAGA right is so confident that they can undo every good thing that was done in the 20th century for people of color, for women, children, immigrants, LGBTQ people, for everyone. They're so confident that they can get back to a world where conservative, white, so-called Christian men rule over everyone else, that they're just openly saying it in public. For all you Swifties out there, Newsweek has published an op-ed claiming that Taylor Swift, a billionaire entertainer and a hugely successful business person, things conservatives used to like, is a bad role model. Why? Because at 34 years of age, she remains unmarried and childless. Welcome to the new 1950s, where as a woman, being successful doesn't count. Being celebrated for your art and having millions of fans doesn't count. All that matters is that you are married to a man and have some kids. These people have a plan, and they're certainly not shy about it. And should Donald Trump be reelected and elected king, God help us all. He will be surrounded by people like Mr. Taylor Swift, get married and make your husband and kids a sandwich. And by this guy, the head of the Heritage Foundation, the folks behind the Project 2025 roadmap to Trump's malevolent monarchy, who said the quiet part real loud and televised.
We are going to win. We're in the process of taking this country back. We're in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Joining me now is Sherilyn Ifill, endowed chair in civil rights at Howard University and former president and director counsel of the Legal Defense Fund. Sherilyn, my friend, thank you for being here. When I heard that clip of that guy who is one of the authors of Project 2025 essentially issue a violent threat against Americans, I had two thoughts. Thought one, he ain't going to do nothing violent. He'll be at a country club somewhere golfing while the real violent people, the armed people, the Proud Boys types do the actual dirty work. So that man is a coward and he likes to talk a lot of crap, but it is still a threat. And I took it as a declaration of war against the rest of us. How did you take it?
Well, the gloves are obviously off, and they are no longer afraid to say what their true intentions are. When I heard it, though, Joy, what it made me was angry in a very particular kind of way. I'm not sure who these people think they are. But the idea of some second American revolution, they are the Confederacy. They don't get the title of American Revolution. They are the Confederacy bent on destroying this country. And if they think that what we have gone through, certainly as Black people in this country, as women, as gay people, as the disabled, as people who are poor, trying to find their way up to make their children's lives better than theirs, if they think that we are about to throw that all off and knuckle under to the likes of Stephen Miller and this man and Donald Trump, they have got to be kidding. I am also from Queens, and I can tell you the Donald Trumps of the world, we understood exactly who they were when I was growing up in Queens. And no matter how much money he had, he was not fit, not worthy of the kind of love and attention that these people have lavished on him. We will not go back. And so I think what's important, Joy, is for people to we have to stand in our power. And the idea that this person feels empowered to threaten us publicly in this way and that we don't respond. You know, today, most of the media, thank you for your show, Joy, is focused on President Biden and his age and, whether they have been deceived about his health and so on and so forth. Not the fact that someone who is fully locked in with the Republican conservative right-wing movement is threatening us, not with whether or not the United States Supreme Court has decided that the rule of law no longer exists because the president exists outside of it. He is no longer covered by the rule of law as we all are. So these are powerful threats to our democracy that we should be talking about. And the way we show them that we are unafraid is that we step right to them and we make it clear that it's not going to happen. And that's going to take some strategy and some work. And we have to start talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, on the night of the debate, I got all the texts. I reported them dutifully on the special on MSNBC, what people were saying to me. People are still saying a lot of the same things. Those conversations are happening in the back. But let me tell you what keeps me up at night. Not Joe Biden being old and walking real slow and shuffling and being doddering. You know what keeps me up at night? The Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 saying they're going to expand presidential power to confirm John Roberts' edict that the president is a king. The idea that they're going to just deconstruct the administrative state, meaning putting 50,000 civil servants on the street unemployed. They're going to reverse the FDA approval of abortion medication, condemning women in blue states to also an abortion ban. They're going to reverse the interpretation of the Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act, meaning women will die in the emergency room if they need abortion care. They'll block gender-affirming health care so parents don't decide what to do with their own children. They decide. They'll eliminate the EPA Enforcement Office, meaning we will choke on smog because the Koch brothers want. They'll dismantle the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, meaning we won't know when a hurricane is coming. Peril is literally going to where my godmother is in Jamaica. They will eliminate the Department of Education. I could go on, Sherilyn. What keeps me up at night and the reason that I can't dedicate the limited time we have on this show to doing the debate about should Biden be replaced or should Vice President Harris take over, that's not what keeps me up at night. Biden being old is just a fact. This keeps me up at night, Sherilyn. And I wonder, how do we get Democrats to stop circular firing squad and focus on this?
Well, I think part of what is disturbing me is the Democrats who are engaged in this misguided conversation right now are those perhaps whose lives will not be fundamentally changed by us becoming not a democracy anymore, except they won't be able to say the kinds of things that they now can say when they sit in the briefing room of the White House. They will be in a very different situation in relationship to the president and the federal government. But there are people who will truly suffer. Our country will truly suffer if just even a part of that list you just described is able to be brought to fruition. It will mean the end of democracy in this very young country. And that will mean pain for millions of people. So like you, I cannot spend time on President Biden being 81 because I knew he was 81 before he started the debate. I was worried about him, but the next day he seemed fine. We saw him at the D-Day ceremonies. We saw him do the State of the Union. We saw him the day after the debate. We saw all of those things. And if there's information that we need, we'll get that information and cross that bridge when we get to it. But right now, we have to understand and organize that this year is about voting for our survival as a democracy. After we get past that, after we have vanquished the danger that stands in front of us, then we can begin to talk about the other things that we need to do to make our democracy stronger, including changing the Supreme Court, including closing loopholes in the Senate like filibuster, and all of these things that actually also stand in the way of true democracy in this country. But we better wake up. We are not in some position where it can't happen to us. It can happen to us. It is happening to us if we look at the Supreme Court's decision the other day. And so we need to get straight and get focused. These people are so emboldened. They have written down their intentions. They have a playbook. They have a day one plan. They go agency by agency in this report to try and dismantle the very things that protect us. What do people think the federal government does? It protects us. That's what the Civil War and the 14th Amendment was all about, was that we needed to recalibrate protection in this country. And we're supposed to be protected by the federal government, whether it is agencies that protect us against unsafe products or unsafe drugs, or whether it's the Justice Department that protects us against rogue police officers and police departments. That's what they want to dismantle, so that they can have their way with us and leave us to the will of the states. And we've got to be prepared to recognize what that is, focus, and fight back against it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, Rashad Robinson, like you, he calls them neo-Confederates, because clearly that's what they are. We've seen with this Supreme Court, given who they are, you've seen in Louisiana them erect the 10 commandments in every school. You've seen in Oklahoma, the 50th worst state in the union in terms of their education quality. They are last place. Edict there in that state that now every school, they will teach from the Bible. They're picking their own branch of Christianity, their version, and they're going to now, that is going to substitute for actual education. And these same schools are slashing preschool. They're letting women go hungry. They're letting women die in childbirth. Texas has an increased child mortality rate because of abortion bans. This is already happening, Sherilyn, because they know that Samuel Alito is with them and that this majority will affirm merging church and state. That's the fight, right?
It's true. And that's why I don't understand why the number one conversation is not the Supreme Court. Because no matter what any Democrat does, no matter what, even if Joe Biden is elected, he does, this Supreme Court has made clear what they will do. And so that means that when we look at this election, we have to be looking at having the House and the Senate, because Supreme Court reform has to be the first order of business. Otherwise, no other progressive things that people want will be able to go forward, because the court has made clear who they are and whose they are.
The difference between Democrats and Republicans is Republicans, they get a felon and an adjudicated rapist and they triple down. Democrats go, oh my God, and try to do whatever it takes to kind of make themselves lose. Focus, everyone. You need to win more seats. You need the House, the Senate, and the White House, because yesterday Michael Steele told us that he's already hearing they're going to put 5 more right-wingers on the Supreme Court if Trump gets in. 5 more Clarence Thomases and Alito's. Sherilyn Ifill, my friend, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you. And coming up, more on the immense threat to our democracy that a Trump presidency with Project 2025's agenda poses, and the importance of those down ballot races in November, as Sherilyn just said. This is critical stuff, guys. Stay with us.
Saturday, September 7th, it's MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, our premier live audience event with your favorite MSNBC hosts. Visit msnbc.com/democracy 2024 to buy your tickets.
It's Monday, everyone. We're happy to have you here on this Monday night. Lots of news to get to tonight.
Make more of your Mondays on MSNBC with Jen Psaki and Rachel Maddow back to back.
Do you think Trump's conviction is going to be an issue that's going to influence people who may be undecided, on the fence?
I wondered what effect a sort of constant threat of violence has had on you and on your ability to do your work.
Jen Psaki at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by Rachel Maddow at 9, Mondays on MSNBC.
It's not just about the presidential election, you guys. It's time for us to play chess, not checkers. It's about making decisions that will affect us as human beings, our careers, our next generations to come. Did you know that it is now a crime to be homeless? Pay attention. It's not a secret. Look it up. They are attacking our most vulnerable citizens. The Project 2025 plan is not a game. Look it up.
Chess, not checkers, fam. Project 2025 is not a game. That is actress Taraji P. Henson urging guests and those watching the BET Awards to look it up. And they did. Just take a look. Google Trends showing that searches for Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation's Guide to Authoritarianism for Dummies, surging after the June 30th BET Awards ceremony. Way to go, Taraji. Joining me now is Juanita Tolliver, MSNBC political analyst and co-host of Crooked Media's What a Day podcast, and Tara Setmeyer, senior advisor to the Lincoln Project and former Republican communications director. Thank you both for being here. I am going to start with you, Tara, because, I often do like a WWRD. I know you're a former, but what would Republicans do? Because it is sort of fascinating to see kind of the way the other side kind of operates, right? And they literally, Donald Trump could kill a person on Fifth Avenue. They'd be like, so? They don't care. They're going to triple down on him. It doesn't matter. I halfway think that he would pass away and they'd be like, I'm still voting for him. I just don't think they care. But at this point, Democrats face a true existential threat. I don't think we've ever faced anything like this since you and I were on opposite sides. OK, Donald Trump. Let me just go through a little of the Project 2025. We're really zeroing in on this today. They want to consolidate presidential power into the full kingdom that John Roberts wants. They want to roll back reproductive rights. They want to roll back LGBTQ rights. Gay marriage is on the table. They want to restrict U.S. immigration. They want to create camps, concentration camps. They want to they want to basically gut climate change. They want to allow climate change, and they want to expand on education and DEI programs, meaning they want to run black folks and women out of higher education. That's important, right? Like, that's what we should be running about.
It's so frustrating watching this circular firing squad coming from Democrats, because Republicans don't do this. As we've seen, Republicans, they fall in line. You fall in line behind your guy. I just don't get how, at this point, given President Biden's record as president, He's demonstrated competence. He has a record to run on. And yet, because he had a bad debate, he's a little old, that they're freaking out. I mean, imagine if, because in America, we're resilient. And imagine if the Union Army started to flip out when they lost the Battle of Manassas, or if the United States military decided, well, oh my gosh, we're going to have to switch presidents and get rid of all of our generals because they lost a couple battles in the Pacific in World War II. That's not what we do. And so I don't understand what's happening right now. This is a fantasy of trying to switch out President Biden for anyone else. It's impractical logistically. Meanwhile, on the other side, to your point, and I'm so glad that you guys are focusing on Project 2025. I've been screaming from the rooftops for months about this because I know how Republicans have been stewing on this. This is a fever dream of theirs for years to basically now have a manifesto that is above the Constitution. These are things that are almost not constitutional. They're not aligned with American democratic values. This is an illiberal party. And I've co-founded the Seneca Project along with my co-founder, Michelle Kinney, to target moderate women in swing states so they understand what's at stake, so we can inform them directly and tell the stories about how women's rights are on the line. Our lives as women are literally on the line here. And when you hear people like the head of the Heritage Foundation, like these RNC delegates saying that they want to criminalize women if they have to get an abortion, if they have to go through life-saving medical care, that they want to criminalize doctors who want to perform life-saving measures on women. This is what's at stake on top of all of the other things, the concentration camps, the public executions and public trials, show trials. Donald Trump is a sick individual, and the Republican Party is a sick and perverted party that's illiberal, that wants to destroy our democracy in favor of something that none of us want to see and that we could never come back from. But Biden is old. It's outrageous.
And he's
I want to jump in here.
His brain is mush. Yes, please, Juanita, please.
Because what's most striking in the clip that you played with Cheryl and Joy was the confidence of the president of the Heritage Foundation. Because what the reality is, based on these recent Supreme Court rulings, they're 2/3 of the way there. Their three goals are to give Donald Trump unchecked power. You referred to him as a king rightly, because that's the key to this. They want to eliminate major agencies within the federal government. We're already seeing that with the Chevron ruling. And they want to eliminate key components of federal regulations: abortion, gender, race, equity. These are explicit words that are marked in Project 2025 for complete deletion. And they are 2/3 of the way there with the Chevron ruling and with the blanket immunity ruling that the Supreme Court handed down, and understanding that this 6-3 composition will only potentially get entrenched further under another Donald Trump term. This court is aligned to do whatever bidding they want next. The only thing, the last third of their equation, is getting Donald Trump elected king. And this is where voters come in. This is where voters have the opportunity to stand up and interject in this moment and protect our democracy for decades and generations to come.
Yeah, and to stay with you just for a minute, Juanita, because the thing is, and again, I think, and also for Democrats are so president focused that I think that's part of the issue. Republicans focus down to school board. We need to start thinking about these other races. Let me just put up the 2024 Senate races that are up. Democrats must hold the Senate. You must hold the Senate, Democrats. You need to think about these races. Look at that map. Is there an opportunity to pick something up? Could you pick up Florida? Could you pick up one of these races? There's an absolute nut job running in places like Indiana that you could look at. Look at the places where really cuckoo people are running. And does that give you opportunities? Do ballot measures give you opportunities? Let's look at where abortion is on the ballot. Let's put that map up. Abortion is on the ballot in multiple states. Are those opportunities, Democrats, where you can make movements among Republican voters, Republican moderates, what's left of them in their electorate? And I want to let each of you guys talk about that. Where do you think the key places are that people should focus? You first, Juanita. Where should Democrats be focusing beyond the president?
I am so grateful that you put up those abortion ballot initiative states, because this is where we have seen voters in 2022 and 2023 cross demographic lines of age, race, gender, as well as partisan lines to protect abortion access when it's on the ballot. So I'm definitely looking at Arizona and Florida and Nevada as massive opportunities for Democrats to really tap into the energy that voters are going to be turning out with as it relates to those abortion access ballot measures. I'm also looking at gubernatorial races, Joy, right? Because Republicans have a slate of gubernatorial candidates who are unhinged. Think about the Republican candidate in North Carolina who wants to go back to a time when women didn't have the right to vote, who refers to LGBTQ people as filth. Think about the bans that someone like that would implement related to gender affirming care, related to abortion access. This is something that reinforces the reality that Democrats and voters have to pay attention to the entire ballot, because the presidential race is not happening in a vacuum. It's happening with all these other races that people have to pay attention to.
Last word to you, Tara. Where should Democrats be focusing beyond the presidency?
Yeah, no, everywhere there's an election and there's a Democrat on the ballot, they have to understand that the choices are binary. And we've seen Republicans have done this for decades, where they've focused on state and local races, like you said, all the way down to the school board. I used to be a trainer for GoPac, and we used to say, start with the school board and work your way up. And then you build a grassroots coalition there. This is, you see what's happening in states individually. Donald Trump says, oh, no, he wants to send these things back to the states, like reproductive rights and things like that. Well, guess who's in the state? You need to start paying attention. America, pay attention. Democrats, pay attention and stop this. Get behind your candidate, get unified, and make sure you fully understand that our democracy is on the line, and cut it out with all this other stuff, because there's one singular focus, and that's winning in November and denying MAGA and Donald Trump from destroying our democracy, period.
If it's Biden head in a jar, y'all, vote for that. And every Democrat down the line. This is your job. You got one job. Get these Republicans until that party is normal again and they can reset and be normal, and then we can be two normal parties again. You got one job, y'all. Brain in a jar. Vote for that. Juanita Tolliver, Tara Setmeyer. Thank you both very much. Coming up, the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington are calling for Clarence Thomas to be investigated for failing to disclose multiple trips he took on Harlan Crow's dime. Crew's executive director and chief counsel joins me next.
MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell.
When I was working in the Senate, I didn't realize that it's the perfect training for the job that I have now. Covering government, covering politics, the complexity of it all. Mastering the detail is crucial to being able to present anything that happens in Senate buildings or any of the other news centers that we have to focus on every day.
The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, weeknights at 10 p.m. Eastern on MSNBC.
A U.S. senator destroyed by blackmail.
He was not bound by the truth or by facts.
The country's most outrageous political demagogue, ascending toward the peak of American power.
Millions upon millions of devoted followers.
This is a story of heroes willing to face down tyranny and the risk to the country if they fail.
Rachel Maddow presents Ultra, Season 2 of the chart-topping original podcast. Listen now on Pandora.
Something that should not be lost amidst the outrage over the Supreme Court's immunity ruling is that Justice Clarence Thomas, one of the 6 conservatives who ruled that Donald Trump should have absolute and also implied immunity in the criminal case involving his attempt to overturn the election. Not only was his own wife part of that effort to overturn the election alongside the elitos who flew that upside down flag in full support of overthrowing democracy, but also leading up to him ruling in that completely unsurprising way, he, like Alito, was plagued by multiple conflicts of interest. And Thomas, unlike any prior member of the Supreme Court, Alito included, has a long list of ethics issues, having accepted literally millions of dollars in what the court might call gratuities from wealthy benefactors over the years. That list grew even longer last month when the Senate Judiciary Committee uncovered more undisclosed private jet trips gifted to Thomas by Republican mega donor Harlan Crow. Now, the watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, aka CREW, has filed a new complaint to the Attorney General and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, seeking to have Justice Thomas properly investigated. Joining me now is Donald Sherman, Executive Director and Chief Counsel for CREW. Thank you so much, Mr. Sherman, for being here. We kind of all know now what's happened. Justice Thomas, you guys have called for him to be investigated for accepting all these lavish gifts. We know that there have been, even more gifts we found. We can put up an exhaustive list of their scandals, accepting gifts. Tell me what you think can be done now. What kind of investigation are you looking for?
Thanks for having me on. I think what needs to happen now is we've only gotten certain information in trickles because the Senate Judiciary Committee finally decided to do some investigating and really put some pressure on Harlan Crow to provide information about just how many gifts he and his companies have paid for and have given to Clarence Thomas. We need a thorough investigation because, not just because the Supreme Court, including Chief Justice Roberts, have continued to flout congressional oversight, but because the Department of Justice has different tools, stronger tools to investigate not just Harlan Crow, Justice Thomas's other benefactors, but also to request and get information from Justice Thomas as well. We are tired of getting this information in fits and starts, in trickles. We finally need to get to the bottom of just how many gifts Justice Thomas has received from his so-called friend who he made after he became a Supreme Court justice, and whether his failure to disclose that information was a crime.
We know that Clarence Thomas participated in these Koch network donor events. And the Koch network is also a party to things that have come before the Supreme Court. They were quite happy that the Chevron doctrine, for instance, was overturned. You've seen the Supreme Court essentially legalize bribery of the exact type that Alito and Thomas are shown to have received. Could the Justice Department subpoena Clarence Thomas? Is that possible, or would the Supreme Court just overrule that subpoena, do you think?
It certainly is possible. Again, the Department of Justice has broad investigative power. And I think the reason why the Department of Justice needs to subpoena Justice Thomas is because if Justice Thomas, or if this subpoena goes through the courts, if an investigation like this goes through the courts, and then Justice Thomas or other justices sit and hear that case and provide the same kind of immunity that this court has provided to Donald Trump, I think it will display for the public just how much this justice and this court thinks that it's above the law. And, you know, they may lose in court, but you have to take that legal fight to the court, because their behavior, Justice Thomas's behavior, and Chief Justice Roberts' continued acquiescence to Justice Thomas is beyond the pale.
Would you support a grand jury, a criminal investigation of Justice Thomas and Justice Alito?
Well, our complaint has asked for the FBI and the Department of Justice to conduct a criminal investigation. Certainly, I wouldn't prejudge what they find during the course of that investigation. But if there is an intention to hide information that has to be disclosed by law, then certainly there are crimes that should be charged.
At minimum, Clarence Thomas, whether or not he is a criminal, is a kept man. I think we can all agree on that. Donald Sherman, thank you. And please keep us updated on your call for an investigation. Thank you so much. And coming up, there has been a lot going on since the debate last week, but we cannot move on without calling out Donald Trump for his obscene lies on abortion. That and what Democrats need to do to fight back is up next. There was so much going on in last week's debate that there was almost zero room for policy, with Trump deliberately avoiding answering questions with any substance and Biden struggling to articulate his points. This was especially clear during the abortion section, with Trump spewing this blatant lie after Biden said he supported Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby.
Okay, that is obviously a ridiculous claim. There are zero abortions where a baby could possibly be killed after they were already born, because at that point, it would be an infanticide, which is illegal. It's illegal in exactly zero places. In the English language, the word abort literally means to stop a thing in progress. You cannot stop a pregnancy once a baby is born because that means the woman is no longer pregnant. It's like if somebody jumped into a pool and decided to abort that jump while they're already in the water. So where did this absurd claim come from? As Trump said, it all started when former Democratic Virginia Governor Ralph Northam made this unfortunate comment in 2019.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
That was an entirely unnecessary answer from Northam to a question about late-term abortion. Because once again, this is not late-term abortion. He's talking about the tragic, if rare, cases where parents have to decide if they want to take invasive and painful life-saving measures if an infant is born with a very low or even zero chance of survival. It is literally a parent's worst nightmare. But that garbled answer gave immediate ammunition to Republicans to claim that Democrats were advocating for baby murder. And now, years later, with Roe v. Wade overturned and women's lives under threat, Trump and Republicans are still doing it. Now, look, I could give you a bunch of stats about how rare actual pre-birth late-term abortions are and talk about why women might need them if their lives are in danger or if the fetus has no chance at survival. And Democrats should absolutely be talking about the women who have nearly died since Roe was overturned, and that both maternal and infant mortality are higher in states where abortion is restricted. But the truth is, Americans support abortion, and the Democratic Party should be running on that fact and not making excuses or qualifying their answers. A poll from Axios Ipsos earlier this year found that 80% of Americans, including 2/3 of Republicans, say abortion should not be regulated by the government. While Biden did call out Trump's lie after the second time Trump said it, his answers on abortion were nowhere near the forceful defense needed. While answering a question on Roe v. Wade, Biden gave a lot of qualifiers depending on the trimester and when it was up to the woman, her doctor, and when it was up to the woman, her doctor in the state. It should literally just be up to the woman and whatever medical professional she chooses to consult with, full stop, which is the entire point of reproductive freedom, choice. Trump also claimed that overturning Roe v. Wade meant the states got to vote on abortion. Nope. Actually, there has not been a single vote by the American people to ban abortion. The bans have come from right-wing Republican state legislatures and courts. When Americans have voted, it's been overwhelmingly to protect the right to abortion or to reject anti-abortion members, even in red states. And the Republican Party has done everything it can to prevent these votes from taking place because they fear the power and the choices of the American people. Trump also claimed that the Supreme Court had approved the abortion pill and that he wouldn't block it. Nope. Actually, the Supreme Court said the mifepristone challenge lacked legal standing, leaving the field wide open for more lawsuits. And Trump wouldn't have to block the abortion pill as president. As we've said before on this show, Project 2025 directly references the existing Comstock Act, which could be used to ban the mailing of abortion medication, which currently is the only way Americans in a large swath of the country can receive the abortion care they need. There is a lot of uncertainty in the political landscape right now, but this issue should clearly be a slam dunk for Democrats, especially when Trump could use his newfound immunity to turn America into the Handmaid's Tale, throwing women and girls into prison for having an abortion, even a 13-year-old rape survivor. This is their dystopian vision. And it is built on lies about abortion care broadcast by one of the top leaders of the Republican National Convention's Platform Committee, meaning what he thinks will shape the party's official stance on key issues. And that is next.
It's an absolute scientific fact that no abortion is ever performed to save the life of the mother. None. Zero. Zilch. If you ban abortion in Louisiana, is a doctor who has an abortion breaking the law? Yes. Should he be punished? Yes. I think that seems obvious. What is the punishment? Not sure yet. Could be criminal, could be a jail sentence.
That was Ed Martin, who regularly spreads dangerous lies about abortion on his radio show. He opposes abortion in any situation, including the rape of a 10-year-old Ohio girl. He's also deputy policy director for the Republican National Convention's Platform Committee. In other words, one of the men crafting Trump's agenda for a second term. Joining me now is Jocelyn Fry, president of the National Partnership for Women and Families. Let's go through a few fact things. You're very good at fact things. I still recall when you destroyed one of these Republicans who were saying silly things about abortion. This person has said that never, ever has a woman ever been treated with abortion care to save her life. Is that true?
Well, first of all, Joanne, always good to see you. Thank you for being here, or for having me. Suffice to say, that's actually just not true, right? Like, so much of what folks are saying is just blatantly a lie, and is intentionally so. This is not a mistake. He's not confused. This is the way that they want to have a debate because it meets their objectives. But the truth is not his friend.
I mean, why, if women don't need abortion care to save their lives, then why are they airlifting women out of Idaho so that they won't die? Right? I mean, women are being airlifted literally out of the state of Idaho to save their lives. That was the issue in the Supreme Court case. What does he think they're being airlifted out of the state for? It just makes no sense. Let's do another one. You were asked this question, and you answered it very well. I'm going to let you answer it again. I just discussed it in the previous block, and if I'm wrong, you are the person to correct me. Is it possible to abort a child after it is born? They are born, the baby.
No, it is not. That is, as you rightfully pointed out, is illegal. It's called infanticide. I know nobody who wants that, supports it. It is a ridiculous assertion, and it is really just designed to stigmatize people who are seeking abortion and to have a conversation about abortion in the most stark and troubling way possible. That's the only way that they think that they can be successful, is to say something that is absolutely ridiculous and not true.
Yeah, words have meaning. The word abort has a meaning. You can't abort something that's already done. Let's go and play the question of whether women will be punished during a Trump administration if they seek an abortion. Here is what Trump actually said about that. Luckily, we actually have his words. Here he is talking to Chris Matthews a few years ago.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
If that is the case, then we're talking about 170,000 patients in 2023 traveled out of state to seek abortion care. 170,000. He would put those women in jail.
Well, I think, we should take him at his word. And if we don't believe him, we can certainly believe some of the supporters that, he engages with, who I think very clearly believe that women and anybody who's pregnant ought to be criminalized if they're seeking abortions. I think that's also true for providers and anybody who supports and helps those people. And I think that's why there's so much chaos and fear on the ground. They hear those things. And even if it doesn't really materialize, it's enough to make people nervous, make people scared, and avoid accessing the care that they desperately need.
Does it surprise you that in states that have banned abortion, they're losing doctors? Doctors are leaving, and the abortion rates aren't even going down. Women are just leaving the state to do it.
It's not surprising. I mean, I think one of the really troubling things about the Dobbs decision from the beginning was the Supreme Court majority's really lack of understanding how healthcare works. And when folks can't provide care the way that they want to, and when patients can't access that care, you're going to create chaos in the ground. Doctors are scared about what they can and can't do. And so they'd rather leave and go to a state that's more friendly, or at least is open to them exercising their medical judgment about the care that's necessary. And the same is true for patients.
Absolutely. And then what you wind up with is fewer doctors for the women who are trying to have children. Jocelyn Fry, thank you so much for your expertise. We always appreciate you. And that, my friends, is tonight's ReidOut. You can follow me on TikTok at Joy Reid Official, and on Instagram at Joyanne Reid. And do follow our show accounts on Instagram and TikTok at The ReidOut.
Can you start by telling us why you're here, Mr. Ernst?
Well, I'm here because my book, along with 4 others, was pulled from the shelves.
When books were banned, this South Dakota community fought back.
They see public education as a vehicle to indoctrinate children.
MSNBC Films presents To Be Destroyed, part of the Turning Point documentary series from executive producer Trevor Noah. Sunday, July 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern on MSNBC.